Hello everybody, John12 back here again with another video, and today I bring you my last Dragon Ball Z movie review, and that is of course for the 13th DBZ animated feature film titled Dragon Ball Z Wrath of the Dragon. Now, of course, it's been a nice ride doing all these movie reviews from Dead Zone all the way to this one, which of course leads to Battle of Gods, which I have already recorded my audio commentary for, which will be coming out tomorrow on Saturday, which is ironically the same day that Fugatsu no F, retitled Resurrection F, will be premiering over in Los Angeles at the Egyptian Theater. And of course, Fugatsu no F will be coming out later in the summer, which is actually not that far from now. And I cannot wait to see this movie and everything else that's been coming out from it, whether it be the new transformations or the new designs and story points or trailer, everything about it is just really awesome. I just can't wait to see this movie. But nonetheless, let's get right down into Wrath of the Dragon. Nonetheless, using the timeline placement theory for DBZ, of course this movie takes place after the events of Majin Buu. Now, it's not really set in stone as to exactly what point it's set in, but my guess is that this takes place right after, or before, definitely after the Kid Buu arc, and definitely right before, of course, the events of Goku going with Oob to train for nonsense. Nonetheless, this definitely takes place at the end of DBZ, which is really awesome, and it's ironically one of the few movies that can work. I mean, of course, there's a lot of mentions as to whether or not what is canon, what's not canon, what have you. Definitely, I see this as being pretty canon with a few obvious errors here and there, but nonetheless, like movies like Dead Zone or BoJack Unbound, this movie definitely fits right with the canon anime series, taking place, of course, as I stated, right after the Kid Buu arc and right before the Goku and Oob martial arts tournament arc. Nonetheless, let's get right down into this. This movie features, for the first time ever, a new character design for this movie, which is the main protagonist, Tapion, and features various antagonists like Hirudegan, which of course is the monster and villain of this movie, and of course the side villain, Hoi, which is a dark magician who controls Hirudegan and is basically like the Babidi to his Majin Buu, essentially, which I guess makes sense, kind of similar to prior movies like Fusion Reborn, that they definitely for the making of these particular movies, they definitely were inspired for what was going on in the actual anime in and of itself. And this is ironically, I think this movie came out either at the end of the actual anime series. I want to say this movie came out right after the end of the actual original run of the anime series, which is actually pretty cool. And nonetheless, this movie, on top of all this, has to be the first ever Kid Trunks solo movie to a certain extent. I mean, granted, this movie is all about Tapion and Hirudegan and their history together, but on top of that, it also has a very, very Kid Trunks heavy plot, which is, of course, Kid Trunks is very attached and interested into the history of Tapion and kind of sees him as an older brother, kind of similar to how Trunks was in the Future Trunks timeline when he was best friends with adult Gohan. So it's very similar in between these two characters, but nonetheless, let's just dive into the movie itself. Of course, prior to the events of this movie, Tapion and his brother, thousands of years ago, were, of course, a part of this race that were being tormented by the monster Hirudegan, who was awakened from these dark magician type characters, and of course arose from his I don't want to say prism, but like he was essentially a statue and then became alive again and started destroying Tapion's planet, and with the help of his brother and of course this I think they called him a wizard. They didn't really give him a name. They just called him the wizard. And essentially these magical, spiritual, musical instruments, of course, were able to really take down Hirudegarn, and with the help of the wizard's sword, which is, ironically enough, very similar to, Trunks' sword. I mean, granted, looking back at it, majority, with the exception of Gohan's sword and Yajirobe's samurai sword, all the swords in DBZ generally look the same, so it's a very common theme. But nonetheless, they use these instruments and the sword to basically decapitate Hirudegarn in half, and in insurance of saving their planet, Tapion and his little brother agreed to use their bodies as prisms for the two halves of Hirudegarn, and in case for any of these magicians to try and, I guess, wield the power of Hirudegarn and of course bring him back, Tapion and his brother are sent into the unknown, of course, galaxies and galaxies far, far away, essentially separated from each other. And apparently upon the release of this movie, the events of this movie, essentially the character of Hoi, who is a part of this League of Dark Magicians, if you will, were capable of finding Tapion's brother, releasing the half of Hirudegarn, and of course and killing his younger brother, which is quite sad nonetheless. But of course we get right into this movie, and we get some really awesome sequences in the city. Gohan as the Great Saiyaman, and of course Videl helping him out as his, I don't think they were married at this point in time, so let's just call them boyfriend, girlfriend, essentially, and they're wearing I like to call them the his and hers Saiyaman costume, which of course a lot of men and women wear at, I guess, anime cons, which is kind of cool. But nonetheless, I really love the design that they gave Videl a female version of the Great Saiyaman costume. I know a lot of people are like, fuck the Saiyaman costume, it's stupid. Nonetheless, I like it, and of course they're saving the city and whatnot, so they're kind of like costume superheroes for the DBZ universe, even though, they don't really need costumes to do the amazing shit they do. I mean, they have a Goku. What else do you need? They have a Goku, they have a Vegeta, a Piccolo, and a Gotenks. What do you need? Nonetheless, during their travels and safety of the city, Gohan and Videl come across Hoi, who essentially is trying to kill himself as just a scheme or what have you. I never understood that plot point, but essentially he comes across Gohan and Videl, finds out that they have this amazing power and abilities that Gohan and Videl practically have, like flying and super strength and what have you. So Hoi believes that on Earth, of course, he can use the Z-Warriors essentially to find the Dragon Balls and use, I guess, the Dragon Shenron to unleash Tapion out of his prison, so he can, of course, bring back Hirudegarn, which, of course, Hoi already has the other half that he got from his little brother, and the Z-Warriors, of course, being, I don't want to say brainwashed. Brainwashed is obvious. Being fooled, obviously, by Hoi's tactics, of course, agree to get the Dragon Balls and help him out. And, of course, Tapion is freed from his prison, and, of course, is really badass. I really enjoyed Tapion as a character, his story arc, and also I liked his design. I think he looked really cool and a very interesting design for a character. I mean, there's not really that many characters that look like Tapion, but he just has a very Trunks kind of feel, like a future Trunks kind of feel if he was a little bit more alien-like. And also, I like the mohawk. I mean, if it wasn't for Tapion, and of course other types of things, I would love to have a mohawk like that. It would look so cool. But nonetheless, Tapion sees Hoi for the fool he is, and Z-Warriors don't really understand what is going on. We move on from there, and Tapion, of course, is kind of getting thrust into the world of Earth, how things go around in there. He's kind of become befriended by Trunks, who really sees him as a really interesting figure. Nonetheless, we get some interesting flashbacks, and of course Tapion talks about his prehistory with Hirudegarn and Hoi and the Dark Magicians and what have you. We have a whole bunch of, Gohan and Videl trying to stop this, gigantic monster-like thing that's destroying the city. And of course, by the end of the movie, of course, Hirudegan escapes from Tapion, becomes whole again, and starts destroying the city, starts tormenting Earth, destroying everything in its path. Goku and the rest of the Z-Warriors must stop him, but of course, Ultimate Gohan, rather, the first appearance of Ultimate Gohan, but Ultimate Gohan nonetheless, Gotenks, everybody just tries to stop him. Nobody can really take him down. Gotenks kind of has some help in there, but of course that evolves to the next version of Hirudegan, which is, of course, the version I personally like, which is really badass design, really awesome look. I think he just looked cooler in his second form. But, of course, emerges from that body, continues to take down the Z-Warriors. None of them can really take him down. And, of course, Tapion believes that, if he was dead, that this never would have happened, which is a really interesting choice for the character, because there's actually certain points in this movie where Tapion believes that if Trunks just kills him, then that will be the end of it, because, if he's gone, then Hirudegan's gone. But, of course, because Trunks really doesn't want to kill him, because he hasn't really done anything wrong, and because Trunks is a good kid, it just turns into a whole nother thing. I just really like that plot point where, like, Tapion is so tormented by the monster Hirudegan that he would literally let Trunks kill him with his sword, which is really graphic and cool, especially for a DBZ movie. But nonetheless, it doesn't really matter because Hirudegan does get free. He's able to fully control his powers and abilities, which Hirudegan, strangely enough, doesn't really have any, with the exception of being incredibly strong. Has this really amazing kind of transmission kind of flow body thing. I don't know what to especially call it. It's kind of similar to a fusion of like the ability, like instant transmission meets like that Janemba kind of ability that he had where Goku couldn't touch him. It's the only difference between the two is that Hirudegan kind of becomes smoke. So it's like you can't really touch him at all. So I don't know. I just thought that was a pretty badass ability. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, Goku discovers Hirudegan's weaknesses and, of course, becomes Super Saiyan 3 and takes him down with a Dragon Fist and epic nonsense ensues. Of course, at the end of the day, the aftermath, if you will, Bulma gives Tapion a time machine, that, of course, the same time machine from the Android and Cell saga, so that Tapion could, of course, go back to his time and world thousands of years ago, and the day is saved, of course. Goku is saved the world from Hirudegan's destruction, and of course the Dark Magician's plans of destroying the universe, if you will, with Hirudegan, and of course ending the nightmare that Tapion has lived the majority of his life. And ironically enough, the Earth pretty much looks like Metropolis at the end of Man of Steel. Ironically enough, which I really, looking back at it when I was rewatching Wrath of the Dragon, looked a lot like that kind of scenario where, like, in the ending of the, spoilers of course, but at the ending of this movie, at the end credit, well, not the end credits, but the aftermath of the fight, you look in the background, but the Capsule Corp and the city is still destroyed. But ironically enough, it's okay because, they're obviously going to use the Dragon Balls to repair the events of what happened in that movie. But I just thought that was kind of funny where they're having this little time of peace, but like everything around them is destroyed. It just kind of felt like a Man of Steel moment before it was Man of Steel. But nonetheless, of course we have Tapion giving Kid Trunks his sword as a farewell gift before he returns to his time and world. And it was really awesome to get that this moment of Trunks with the sword, and then with the end credits, of course, has this scenario with future Trunks when he arrived for the first time with that similar sword. So does that mean that that's exactly where Trunks got his sword, or is it just a different scenario? Let me know what you personally think about that in the comment section below. But overall, this movie is amazing. I personally love it to death. For the longest time, it was my definitive favorite movie. I thought it was the best out of them all, out of every single movie that, Toy Animation ever tried to do, until Battle of Gods, of course. Granted, I rather watch Wrath of the Dragon more because there's just so many tones of, various, genres and subplots that, I don't know, I just like it more for some reason. Like, the animation is so pristine and amazing. I just love it. It looks so good. Of course, this is before the three-dimensional kind of imagery that we got in Battle of Gods, but it still is holding true to that, like, classic 90s animation, but still having like a really good movie feel to it. I just love the animation and artwork of this movie. Hirudegan as a monster and creature and villain of DBZ, I think was awesome as well. I think his powers were cool. And of course, I'm just a general fan of giant monsters, so I thought his history, his lore, his everything about Hirudegan, especially his second form, I just really love. He's just a really badass character. I mean, yes, he's useless. He doesn't really have a mind of his own, nor does he have, a brain or intelligence, if you will. He's just a raging monster, kind of similar to like the Grade 8 form, like when you have no consciousness or what have you, with the exception of like Elite Saiyans. But nonetheless, I just thought he was really badass and cool. Tapion as a character I thought was interesting. I love his backstory. I like his arc throughout the movie. I also kind of find it really cool that this is the first time where a character that's not specifically a part of the Z Warriors or pre-existing the movie actually is the main protagonist. I mean, this is the first movie that features Goku as in the main cast, but who's not the main hero. I mean, yes, Goku saves the day, but for the most part, it's the majority of this movie is a Tapion, Kid Trunks, Hirudegan movie, which was really cool take for this movie to go with for its plot. I thought that was really interesting, and plus overall, I just like him. He's really cool. He has this cool design. He just has a cool back history. I love how he really cared for his little brother, and he kind of saw like his brother. Similarities between his brother and like Kid Trunks. I thought that was really nice and sweet. Although that conversation that he had with Bulma at night was kind of creepy. I don't know if they were trying to like go off with some kind of weird subplot there, but of course, if you remember the scene, you know what I'm talking about. I just thought that was kind of awkward. And of course, Vegeta helps there. I mean, Vegeta's not in this movie for long. But Vegeta, I also have to give credit in this movie because, unlike Battle of Gods, this was actually the legitimate first time where Vegeta actually saves people other than himself or, the Z Warriors, which of course that one sequence where Hirudegan's about to destroy a city, like all 9/11 style, and essentially before, he could do it, Vegeta creates a force field to save all the people in the city. Well, not the city, but in the building, rather. That was an amazing shot, and also a really impressive plot point for Vegeta, especially for a character who was really not in this movie that much, which does kind of, sadden me because I'm a Vegeta fan, but for the scenes he was in, pretty badass. And everybody else, just awesome. Action, always on point. This movie was definitely amazing. It's definitely a step up from, movies from the past, of course. It's just really ironic looking back at it when you have, like, of course, Bio Broly has to be, like, the lowest point, and then they really kicked it up with Fusion Reborn, still keeping, like, that not-so-serious, but, really badass action kind of scenario, and then they just kicked it up with a really amazing story with Wrath of the Dragon. I think Wrath of the Dragon has to be the best and most underrated of the DBZ movies. It's just really awesome storytelling, amazing animation. Every character had their fucking point in time where they were a very interesting character and also and compelling character also. And of course, on top of that, the mythology of the characters were awesome. Everybody was just amazing in this movie. It was just really great. Music's awesome, animation's great, characters were great, character arcs were great. And of course at the end it's just that one shot of Goku as a Super Saiyan after he defeated Hirudegan. That one shot still sticks with me every time I see Super Saiyan 3 Goku. He just looks like such a boss. He just standing there in this full-on glory with the sun shining on him. Super Saiyan 3 hair flowing in the air and shit. It just looked amazing, that one shot. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, I have to give this movie... I have to give it a 9.5, or maybe a 10, maybe a solid, perfect 10. I don't know, it's really hard to say, because even though I really love and enjoy it for what it is, there are some things I don't like. Like there's a couple things that I don't appreciate, and looking back at kind of are really, I guess you'd say, inconsistent, or just a little weird, but nonetheless... if you put those things aside and just look at it as a whole, it's just an amazing movie. It's so solid. It's just a solid flick. I mean, it's just really good it's just entertaining, fun, comedic, serious, graphic, violent, action-packed, fun, just everything that you would want from a DBZ movie, this movie gives it to you, and in a very good time limit as well, which Battle of Gods, obviously is a little longer and still gives you all that. I still think that this movie gave you a little bit more, especially with its a limited time limit. But nonetheless, this has been my personal thoughts on the movie itself. In the comment section below, let me know what you personally thought about all the movies I reviewed, and also particularly Wrath of the Dragon. What did you think about Tapion as a character? What did you think about Hirudegarn as a monster slash villain? What do you think about non-canon DBZ movies? Do you think after Akira Toriyama stops doing the movies, do you think Toei Animation should go back to doing non-canon movies? And on top of that, also let me know what you personally think about Tapion and the aftermath of this movie. Do you think he went back in time to his world, and what did he do afterwards? Because I was actually thinking about that prior to recording this review, where I was thinking, like, what did Tapion do after leaving? I mean, granted, the day is saved, and Goku defeated Hirudegarn once and for all, but at the same time, if he goes back in time, that means Hirudegarn still exists, so why go back in time? I mean, the time machine, if I'm not mistaken, only goes through time. It's not really a spaceship, rather, if that makes any sense. I guess it kind of does both, but at the same time, why not just go back to your homeworld? Why, go back in time? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, unless he's going back in time to stop the magicians from unleashing Hirudegarn in general. But at the same time, that still doesn't make any sense because Hirudegarn still exists. So why go back? I don't know. That's just one thing that never really made sense to me. Like, why Tapion went back in time instead of just traveling to his homeworld. But nonetheless, let me know what you personally think as to what Tapion really did after the events of this movie. Of course, also let me know what you personally think in the comment section below. What Vegeta's day off was, because in the movie he states that he hasn't had a day off in so long, and over the course of this movie, he was on a day off. So let me know what you personally think what he was doing. What could Vegeta possibly have done, having a day off from saving the world, training his son, and also, I guess, hanging out with Bulma or whatever the fuck they do together, because, shit goes down. But nonetheless, let me know what you personally thought about that. And of course, tomorrow is Fugatsu no F Egyptian Theater. No spoilers. Don't be spoiling for me. I want to see it in theaters. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoy seeing it. Hope you guys enjoyed my review. Of course, tomorrow, check out my audio commentary of Battle of Gods. And of course, please check out all my movie reviews that I've done from the Dragon Ball Z franchise, from Wrath of the Dragon all the way down to the first movie, Dead Zone. Hope you guys enjoyed every single one of them. And of course, I will be back to give you my reviews on the specials and OVAs. I don't know when exactly I'm going to do them, but just let me know in the comment section below which one I should do first. If you want me to do Future History Trunks first, or Bardock Father Goku first, just let me know what you personally think about that. But nonetheless, I will be reviewing them nonetheless. So just hope you guys enjoyed overall. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. And this has been John 12.